Let's be honest, if you've ever just stared blankly at a web page wondering, how in the world am I supposed to cite this thing, you are definitely not alone. The internet is, well, a chaotic mess of information, and trying to turn that chaos into a credible, solid source, that's a huge challenge. But don't worry, that's exactly what we're going to tackle in this explainer.
I mean, think about it. A book? It's a finished thing. It's printed, it sits on a shelf, it doesn't change. But a website? Wow, that's a moving target. Information can change overnight, authors are often nowhere to be found, and dates can be super confusing. This quote really just nails that feeling of trying to pin down something that might literally vanish tomorrow.
So, here's the big question. How do we wrangle this chaos? This isn't just about checking a box for a professor or a boss. It's about building your own credibility as a thinker, a writer, a researcher. And today, we're going to give you a simple, clear playbook to turn any messy URL into a solid, trustworthy reference.
Okay, before we get to the how, we really have to understand the why. Because recognizing exactly why citing websites is so frustrating, well, that's the first step to actually mastering it.
You know these pain points. I know you do. First, there's no author. It just says staff writer. So who gets the credit? Then there are two dates, right? The original published date and the last updated one. Which one are you supposed to use? And of course, the absolute worst, the dreaded 404 error, where your brilliant source just, poof, disappears. A truly good citation system has to have a plan for all of this.
All right, we've stared into the abyss of chaos. Now, let's build our toolkit to deal with it. Here's the secret. No matter what citation style you're using, APA, MLA, whatever, you're always looking for the same 7 essential pieces of information first. This is your foundation. Think of this as your pre-flight checklist. Seriously, before you worry at a single comma or period, your one and only job is to go on a treasure hunt for these 7 things: the author, the date it was published, the title of the page, the title of the whole website, the publisher, the URL, and sometimes the date you actually looked at it. Once you have these, the hard part is already over.
So you've gathered your 7 components. Now what? Well, we're going to look at the big 3 citation styles: APA, MLA, and Chicago. The best way to think of them is like different blueprints. They all use the same 7 building blocks we just found. They just, arrange them in a slightly different order. But they all share the exact same goal: making your work clear and credible.
First up is APA, which stands for the American Psychological Association. This is the absolute go-to for social sciences, education, and fields like that. For APA, the most important thing is timeliness. It's all about the when. And it makes sense, right? A study on social media from 2024 is going to be a whole lot more relevant than one from 1994. That's why APA puts that date right up front.
And here's the APA blueprint. You can see the structure: author, date, title, etc. But I want you to notice one really unique thing here. See the article title. It says sentence case title. That means you only capitalize the first word and any proper nouns. It's a tiny detail, but it's a total giveaway that you're looking at an APA citation. Here's what it looks like all put together. You've got the author, the date right there in parentheses, the title in sentence case in italics, the website name, and the URL. It's clean, it's structured, and it immediately tells your reader this info is fresh from 2024.
Okay, let's switch gears to MLA, the Modern Language Association. You're going to see this everywhere in the humanities, like English and philosophy. MLA has a totally different focus. It's all about the who, the author, and this idea of the container, which, by the way, is just a fancy word for the larger work the source is in. For a web page, the website is the container. So let's walk through the MLA format. It starts with the author's full name, not just the initial. Then you get the article title in quotation marks. After that comes the website title, the container, in italics. Then you just follow the trail: publisher, date, URL, all separated by commas. It's like a little breadcrumb trail leading right back to where you found it.
And here it is in action. You can see that logical flow so clearly: author, article title, website title, and so on. It's all about presenting the information in a way that really highlights the author and where their work lives. And finally, we have Chicago style. This one is a big favorite in the worlds of publishing and history. Now, what makes Chicago unique and sometimes a little bit tricky is that it actually gives you 2 different systems to choose from depending on what you're trying to do. So the 2 systems are Notes Bibliography, or NB, and Author Date. NB is that classic style you see in history books, where you have little numbers in the text that point to footnotes with all the citation details. Author-date is a much simpler system that looks a lot like APA and is used more often in the social sciences.
Here's a quick look at what a bibliography entry looks like in that notes bibliography system. It's really clean, super professional, and it's designed to be very easy to read when you have a long list of sources. This is the kind of format you'll see in a lot of published books and academic journals.
Okay, this is all great in a perfect world, but what happens in the real world when your source is missing an author or a date? This is the point where most people just throw their hands up and guess. But you don't have to. Don't panic, each style has a simple, built-in rule for this.
This slide right here, this is your quick fix guide. It's your cheat sheet for those messy, imperfect sources. As you can see, if you're missing an author or you can't find a date, there is a clear rule for what to do in every single style. The big takeaway here is that you never, ever have to guess. There's always a protocol to follow.
Now that we've got the mechanics down, I want to leave you with a much bigger and honestly, more important idea. Because getting the punctuation right in your citation, that's just step one. The real work of a researcher goes so much deeper.
Man, this is such a powerful statement. Think about what it's saying. It argues that if you just cite a web page that's constantly changing, like, say, a Wikipedia article, and you don't acknowledge that it's a living, breathing document, you're basically being dishonest. You're omitting the truth that your source isn't set in stone.
And that brings us right to the core takeaway of this whole thing. A perfectly formatted citation for a totally unreliable or hopelessly outdated source is still a bad source. Your real job isn't just to be a good formatter. It's to be a detective, to actually vet the source itself. Is it credible? Is it current? You can't just cite garbage because you put the commas in the right place. So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. The next time you're building a bibliography, don't just ask yourself, is this correct? Ask yourself, is this trustworthy? Because at the end of the day, that is what makes the difference between a good student and a great researcher.